Hello class, welcome to Unit 7 Video 6. Today we're going to analyze graphs of polynomial functions. Your learning target will be that you can graph polynomial functions, and the way you're going to do that is by using their real zeros, maximum, and minimums. The other tool we're going to be using today is your graphing calculator. So you probably want to go ahead and pause this if you don't have it out and grab your graphing calculator because you are definitely going to need it for your upcoming quiz. So we have an example here. It says the percent of the United States population that was foreign-born since 1900 can be modeled by P of t. This is a polynomial function. And just remember, this is a degree of what's the highest exponent. We have 3, 2, 1, so my degree is 3 of this polynomial. And it says t is equal to 0 in 1900. It wants us to take note that the graph is decreasing from t equals 5, which is here, all the way to 75. And then it begins to increase. The points t equals 5 and 75 are what we call turning points. They're also called relative maxes and mins. Maximum, or it's a relative minimum. What that means is if it turns, it goes from increasing to decreasing. That's a max. And here we're going from decreasing to increasing, so that is a minimum. So this one has 2 turning points and the degree is 3. So the way you can figure out the degree of a polynomial if I don't actually give you the equation is it's your number of turns plus 1. So this one has 2 turns, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's how I know it is a degree 3 polynomial. But this is what a max and a minimum look like. So in order to graph today, we're going to be using the real zeros of a function. The values where a function crosses the x-axis. Those are those real zeros. The other thing we're going to be using is we're going to be finding relative max and min. I just drew pictures of what that would look like for you, but a relative max is a point where the graph changes from increasing to decreasing and there's no other points around it that are higher. So for instance, if I have we are increasing and then decreasing, this would be a max, a relative max. And then minimum is just the opposite. It's where it goes from decreasing to increasing. So in this case, we are decreasing to increasing, so right here is a minimum. Relative max and mins, like I've already said, are also called turning points. So typically we refer to them in max or mins. So we're going to be using zeros, max, mins, end behavior, all things that we have already talked about. Well, not max and mins, but briefly, we've done end behavior in other chapters to help us graph polynomial functions. So we have a lot going on here. For example, 1. It says graph this polynomial, and it tells me that x equals -2 is a zero of the function. Find the other real zeros, find the relative max and relative mins, and then describe the end behavior. In this case, it's a degree 3, and so if you remember from earlier notes, it should look something like this. Okay, and chances are we're going to have 1 max and 1 min because it's a degree 3, and it tells me one of the zeros is -2. Okay, well, basically what this means is that at one point I had x plus 2, and so this was a factor of my polynomial. This is something that we have looked at in section 7.4. So we had the factor, and how did we go ahead and find the other factors? Well, we used synthetic division. So let's just maybe start out with synthetic division to find our zeros. So x plus 2 would have been a factor, so they already did the work. They told us this is what has to go into our little box. And now remember, we put our coefficients. So we have 1, 1, -4, -4. Okay, so this is what's going to help us find our zeros. Okay, so we bring that 1 down. -2 times 1 is -2. 1 plus -2 is -1. This gives me +2, -2, +4, 0. So we were trying to find our other zeros. So this is my remainder, my constant, my x squared. So I would have x squared minus x minus 2. And from here, I would factor like we did in 7.4. So we would have multiplies to -2 but adds to -1. Well, 2 and 1 multiply to 2, but to be -1, we have -2, +1. Okay, so this is my factored form. I would have this plus this, And now how do you find your zeros? It's where your y is equal to 0. So what we need to do is, this is my y, I set this equal to 0. Just like any quadratic, you would take x minus 2 equal to 0, and I get x equals 2. X plus 1 equals to 0, so I get x equals negative 1. And x plus 2 equals to 0, so I get x is equal to negative 2. So my zeros, it's when x is negative 2 and when my y was 0. Negative 1, 0, and 2, 0. So I can actually fill in part of my table right away. If I plug in negative 2, I should get out 0. If I plug in negative 1, I should get out 0. And if I plug in 2, I should get out 0. Okay? So the first step is you want to find your zeros. The way you can do that is using synthetic division or factoring. So let's graph this one. So we're going to get out our graphing calculator. Okay? First step, go to y equals, which is right here. We click on y equals. If you have a function in there, hit clear. And then we type in the function we are graphing. We are graphing x to the third. So x is right next to the alpha. So x to the third. Okay. Arrow over to get out of the exponent if you have this model of calculator. Plus x squared minus 4x minus 4. Okay, double check, make sure that matches what we're doing. Yes, it does. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at our table set, which is listed above our window. This is a huge help to us, our table set. So second window, because table set's in blue, and it says table start. Well, where do we want our table to start with? We want it to start at negative 2.5. So we type negative 2.5. And then I hit enter. Delta table is what do I want it to count up by? What is this table counting up by? It's counting up by 0.5s. So I'm going to say 0.5. Now if I want to see the table, I would go ahead and do you guys see how it says just table above graph? Once again, table's in blue, so I hit second table. And here are all my values. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer these numbers into this table here, as you should be as well. I am telling you, you need to know how to use this calculator for your quiz in order to graph the problem successfully. There's going to be 2 on your quiz. So you really want to make sure you're doing these steps with me right now. So I'm just copying these off my computer screen, or not my computer, my calculator screen. After I get these all copied down, I'm actually going to go ahead and plot the points. So I have negative 2.5, negative 3.37. Negative 2, 0. So I'm going to kind of just do this quickly. Hopefully you guys are you should be good with plotting points. Okay, so there's my shape. You can kind of see what it looks like, and it kind of looks like what I drew originally. If you want to make sure you're going to do it right, though, here's how you do it. You go. Now we just go ahead and hit graph. If we give it a second, there it is, graphed. So does that look like what I have going on my graph over here? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go ahead and connect everything. So it's going to look something like this. Okay. Then it wants us to list the max and min. So where is a high point? Well, this is increasing then decreasing. So right here is a max. And here we are decreasing then increasing. So this is a min. We need to find those values. The way you find those values is by using your graphing calculator. So in order to do this, to find maxes, do you guys see how calc is above trace? That is where we want to go. So we are going to go second, calc. Let's find the maximum first. This is number 4. You can either arrow down to number 4 and hit enter, or you can hit the number 4. So I'm going to hit 4 and enter. I want to find this point right here, okay? Think about it as a nice line drawn. Oh, I can't write on here. Thought I could. Think about drawing on your calculator, though. Nice line right up and down here. So it says left bound. Is my flasher currently to the left of this line? No, it's to the right. So I need to move it to the left. The way I do that is with these keys right here. So move to the left. Okay, am I to the left? Well, there's my point. Yes. So hit enter. Then now I have this and I want to move to the right of it. So move over to the right of my maximum. Okay, is my cursor to the right? Yes, hit enter. And then it wants a guess. You can move closer to the point, or if you hit enter, it will also tell you. So here is my maximum. My x value is negative 1.535, and my y is 0.879. So please put these, I like 3 decimal places. So the maximum value is when x is negative 1.535, and your y, that's how high it is. That's the actual maximum. So when you write it out, be careful. The actual max value is the y value. My y value was 0.879, and it was when x was negative 1.535. Okay, so that's how we write the max. The highest value is 0.879. Now we're going to go ahead and find the min. Same place. We're going to go to calc, which is above trace. So second calc. We want to find the min this time, so this is 3. So I'm just going to click 3. Here's my point. Am I currently to the left of it? Yeah. I'm going to move a little bit closer. Did I have to? No. So am I to the left? Yes. Now it says to the right, so I'm going to move until I'm to the right. Is that to the right? Yes. And then hit enter. So there's 3 clicks. So my maximum, there's my x value right here, and how low it actually goes from my minimum. So we're going to mark that on our sheet. So our min is negative 6.065, and it's at the x value of 0.869. Then the end behavior, the last thing we need to fill out. So as x goes to infinity, so as my x's get bigger, what's happening to my y's? They are going up, so it's going to infinity. And as x goes to negative infinity, so as my x's go to the left, my y's are going down, so that would be negative infinity. All right, that's a lot of work there, but we're going to do it again. But this is number 1, okay? Number 2, same thing. They told us is 0, so maybe the first step is we want to find our zeros. Plugging this in, my coefficient, we got 1, negative 4, negative 1, 4. Bring the 1 down, 4. Add them, 0, 0, negative 1, negative 4. So my remainder is 0. So I would have x squared. There's no x, so minus 1 equals 0. This is a difference of perfect squares, so it factors x plus 1, x minus 1. So if I set it equal to 0, x equals negative 1, and x equals 1. So I have 3 zeros. This one, and this one. So I would have negative 1, 0, 1, 0, and 4, 0. I would use these zeros to help me make my table. So if these are my zeros, I probably want to do a number less than negative 1. So let's start it out at, negative 2. That went really crooked, sorry. All the way up to a number greater than 4, so let's do 5. So negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So mark your table. Now let's go ahead and get those values off of our calculator. Get our y values. So try and think, what was our first step when we did the other one? We went to y equals. We hit clear. We type in the new equation. X to the third minus 4x squared minus x plus 4. Okay. After we did that, we went to our table set. So second table set. We want to start this one out at negative 2, right? And let's just count by ones. So instead of counting by 0.5s this time, we can do ones. You can always change it to count by smaller numbers, whatever you prefer, but 1 for the most part works. So let's go to table. So second table. There it is. Write those numbers down. So put them onto your table. If you're not getting those numbers, then you need to double check that you typed in your equation correctly. So at negative 2, we had negative 18. Negative 1, we had 0. 4 we had, sorry, 0 we had 4, 1, 0, 6, or 2, negative 6. And then we do our best to sketch them all. So negative 2, 18 doesn't fit on here, but I'm just going to say way down here I need to be. Then I got 0, 0, 4, 1, 0, 2, negative 6, 3, negative 8, 4, 0, and 5, 24. So way up here somewhere. Oops, like right here. Then I want to make sure I can kind of see the shape of it. Looks like it's going to go like this, so let's check it out. I can hit graph on my calculator. And sometimes it takes a while. There it is. Perfect. So I'm going to sketch it. Hopefully it's easier for you guys to do with a pencil. I find it's easier when I'm using a pencil. So we have something like this, and it's going to go down, whoops, and back up. So there it is. Once again, we have a max here and a min here, so we need to find those values. So we go back to our graphing calculator. We want to find the max, which looks like it's right here, but looks like it's 0, 4, but let's confirm. So we have to go second, calc. We are finding the maximum, number 4. I have to go to the left of it. Okay, for sure to the left. So here's my point. Yep, I'm on to the left side, so hit enter. Then I move to the right, hit enter, and one more time. And my max, it's not exactly 0, 4. It is at negative 0.1196. We'd probably put negative 0.120. Okay. For our x value. So that would be our maximum. So it was negative 0.120, and the actual max value is 4.061. I would recommend you pause the video and try and do the min on your own. Okay, and then come back and make sure you did it. But we would do second calc, go to minimum, number 3. We need to be to the left of it. I'm just going to move a little bit closer to my minimum. Hit enter, go to the right. Hit enter and enter. This is one of those things, like, it's hard, but once you do it a few times, you guys, you'll get it down. So please make sure you are practicing. I can't say how important it is you do that. So there is my minimum value of negative 8.209, and then at the x value. So let's write that down. So we had negative 8.209, and then it was at x was 2.786. And let's talk about end behavior. As x goes to infinity, so as we move this way, what's happening to my y's? They're getting bigger, so they go to infinity. As we go to the left, my y values are getting smaller, so they're going to negative infinity. All right, that is example 2. If you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and move on to example 3. It says graph the polynomial. This one is a quartic because it's to the 4th degree, and it gives us that x equals negative 1 is a 0. Find the other real zeros and the max, the min, all of that. So since I know it's to the 4th degree, it's probably going to look something like this. Okay, and that just comes from lots of practice. And what do we notice about this one? It has a GCF. So I am actually going to go ahead and factor out a GCF. So we'd have x, and then we'd have x to the 3rd plus x squared minus 4x minus 4. And then they're telling me another 0 is negative 1. So I'm going to use this piece and this to find my other 0. So I would have negative 1 in my little box. Then my coefficients are 1, 1, negative 4, negative 4. Bring this down, multiply 0, 0, 4. So remainder, constant, x squared. So I would have x squared minus 4 equals 0. So x plus 2, x minus 2. If I were to write out my complete polynomial all the way factored like we did in 4, we would have this x. So my f of x is equal to x if I were getting an answer of -1, I would have had x plus 1, and then I would have x plus 2, x minus 2. Then I would set them all equal to 0 in order to get my zeros for this function. So x equals 0. That one's nice and easy. X plus 1 equals 0, so I get x equals -1. X plus 2 equals 0, so I get x equals -2, and from here I'll get x equals 2. So this is a -1. So I would have -2, 0, -1, 0, when x is 0, so, and when y is 0, 0, 0, and 2, 0. Then I would make my table. Number less than -2, I would probably do -3. This one gets a little crowded. -3 all the way up to +2. Or sorry, we have 2, so let's do 3. Let's do our table for this one. So y equals, go to y equals, clear it out, type in our function. We have x to the 4th, so do the original. X to the 4th plus x to the 3rd minus 4x squared minus 4x. And now let's go ahead and get our table set. We want to start this one off at -3. And then I'm going to go to my table, which is above graph. And then I'm going to write down all of these values. If I want more numbers, just so you guys understand, you can arrow up. It gives me -4. And if I wanted a number bigger than 6, I would go up. So I have -3, 30, -2, 0. I'm just going to plot all these down. -3, 30, -2, 0, -1, 0, 0, 0, 1, -6, 2, 0, and 3, 60. So let's plot these as best we can. I know they won't fit perfectly, but just do your best. So -3, some really, really big number, so I'm just going to plot a point down here so I don't forget. -2, 0, -1, 0, 0, 0. Whew, lots of little points here. Oh, this is a +30, isn't it? So I should be going way up here, not down below. Then I would have 1, -6, 2, 0, and 360. Big number up there. So we need to sketch this one, but this one might be better to look at the graph first. So we hit graph. And it should look kind of something like I drew before. So we know we start up and we go down and we connect all of our points. So we're starting way up high, coming down, we go through this 0, come up, go through the next 0, go down, come through this 0, and then we're going to go all the way up. Okay, so there is our quartic graph. Now we need to find the max and min. So let's just talk about it. This one right here, that'd be a minimum, right? It's going down and then up. Here would be a maximum, increasing then decreasing, and here we would have another minimum. So here we would not have 2 max, so I'm just going to cross out that one. Okay. Then I would go ahead and let's find these on our graphing calculator. We're going to go second calc, finding that minimum, number 3. Let's start with the one on the left. So am I to the left of it? Nope, so I got to arrow over to be to the left. Hit enter, then to the right, hit enter again. There's my first minimum right here. So we go ahead and we write that one down. So I'm going to write it down, my first minimum. So we got -1.383, and that's when x is -1.607. Then I go on and I look at my graph. Next one's a max. Let's just do it in order. Let's do the maximum. So we're going to calculate the max, which is number 4. Currently I'm to the left, so I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go to the right, hit enter. And then for our guess, we can just hit enter, or you can move closer to the actual maximum. And there's our value. So we're going to write that one down. So it was, our y value was 0.941, and our x value was -0.469. Okay. And then our last relative min, we need to go ahead and find. So we go second, calc. We're doing a minimum, number 3. We're currently here, so we're to the left of this minimum, so we can hit enter. Then we're going to move all the way to the right. Hit enter. Yeah, you can see I went off the grid, which is fine. And then enter one more time. And my minimum is when x is 1.326 and my y value goes to negative 6.914. So let's write down that minimum. Negative 6.914, and it was when x was 1.326. Okay, and then the end behavior. This time as x is going to infinity, my y's are going up, so positive infinity. As x is going to negative infinity, this is my x-axis. As we go to the left, my y's are going up, so that one is positive infinity. Okay, so that is example 3. If you have questions at this point about how to use your calculator, you need to ask. And if for some reason you have the Inspire, I would recommend finding an Inspire video on how to graph equations. You can come and ask me as well, and I can help you out. All right, number 4, last one. This is an example that shows the average fuel in gallons consumed by individual vehicles in the United States from 1960 to 2000. And it's modeled by a cubic equation, which means it has a degree of 3. And T is the number of years since 1960. It just wants us to estimate the max average fuel consumption and the year it occurs. So what is the max? It's kind of hard to see, sorry. The max. So I would say that's roughly this point here. What do we say that is? These are counting by 25, so it's less than 725, so maybe like 715. And it's coming from this axis, so that's gallons. So the max is 715 gallons. And the year, when does that occur? Well, let's say, I don't know, does that look like 7 or 8? So we would do, what year did it start out with? 0 year was 1960 plus, I don't know, maybe a little closer to 7, so plus 7. So the year that it happened was 1967. Okay, so there's my max and the year that it occurred. Then we're also going to go ahead and look at the minimum. The minimum is our lowest value, and that occurs right here at this point. That looks like it's pretty close to 525, maybe a little bit less than 525. I don't know, 520 gallons. And then what year does that occur in? Well, we know we're starting at 1960 plus however many years this looks like. So this is for 35 years, so in between 30 and 35, so maybe like 32 years. So 1960 plus 32 gives us 1992. So in 1992, that was when the minimum average fuel consumption occurred. Okay, so there is an example just kind of showing you where the maxes and the mins are already for something that is graphed. Please let me know if you have any questions, especially about your calculator. You're going to need to know how to use it for your assessment. Otherwise, have a great day, and I will see you later.